4 NFL teams, 2 conference championship games, and only a few more shots to win big on the playoffs with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Counting down to Super Bowl 57, new customers can bet just $5 and get $200 in free bets instantly. Not a new customer? You can feel the conference championship thrills with step-up same-game parlays. Take your shot at an even bigger NFL payout and boost your winnings with each leg you add up to 100%. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use the code SOTS. New customers can bet just $5 on the conference championships and get $200 in free bets instantly, only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Use the promo code SOTS. You have to be 21 plus to enter and officially residing in Louisiana. And if you know someone with a gambling problem, crisis counseling is available by calling 1-800-GAMBLER. That's 1-800-426-2537. $200 in free bets valid, 1 per new customer. Minimum $5 deposit, minimum $5 bet, promo code required. $200 issued as free bets that expire 7 days, 168 hours after being awarded. Hey, what's going on, Who Dat Nation? It is yours truly, TJ Jones, and I am the host of the State of the Saints podcast. Thank you all so much for checking out the State of the Saints podcast, where we talk New Orleans Saints. On this edition, we're going to be talking about rookie wide receiver Chris Olave, and was he snubbed from being a finalist for the Offensive Rookie of the Year? But of course, upon starting this show, we got some breaking news. The Carolina Panthers have hired former Indianapolis head coach Frank Reich. So Frank Reich will be the new head coach of the Carolina Panthers. And I say this with so much confidence. The Carolina Panthers now have the best head coach in the NFC South. I'm going to say that again. The Carolina Panthers have the best coach in the NFC South. So congratulations to Frank Reich. Everybody knows how I feel about the guy. Everybody know this guy was definitely at the top of my list when it comes to head coaches. And the Carolina Panthers, they got themselves somebody. And, the question now is, what's going to happen with Steve Wilks? Well, I think the Saints need to, look at that situation really, really closely, because you have 2 guys that were part of your co-defensive coordinating room, and Chris Richard and Ryan Nielsen both interviewing for the jobs. So if I was the New Orleans Saints, if one of those teams or 2 teams end up taking away both of my coordinators, then I'm probably going to be calling up Steve Wilks. I'm calling up Steve Wilks because that man can coach some defense, and he's definitely a leader of men. So I would be keeping a close eye on that situation. Steve Wilks, unfortunately, won't be the head coach of the Carolina Panthers, but the way that he had those guys playing this season, I think he deserves to have an opportunity to be a head coach again. And I'm pretty sure it's not going to be hard for him to find another job, as a defensive coordinator for the time being. So congratulations once again to Frank Reich. Now the Saints have to find ways to try to get on that level, because if you look at the Carolina Panthers, man, they're not too far off for being a contender and one of the best teams that's coming out this division. So the Saints better catch up with these guys for they kind of pull away. I mean, you're already taking 2 steps back, in my opinion, allowing Dennis Allen with his old no head coaching self, having him on the sidelines yet again. So you don't want to push yourself all the way back. So they better be able to make some adjustments going forward. But let's go ahead and talk about Chris Olave. Chris Olave, incredible season, over 70 catches, or he had like 1,040 some odd yards, 4 touchdowns. And you have the Who Dat Nation there and up in arms. They're mad. They're frustrated. You're ticked off at the fact that Chris Olave wasn't a finalist for Offensive Rookie of the Year. 3 finalists that the NFL decided to select. And I say decided to select. I say that because it speaks volumes about this. You got Kenneth Walker, the running back from the Seattle Seahawks. You got Garrett Wilson, the wide receiver from the Jets. And then you got Brock Purdy from the San Francisco 49ers. And people are wondering to themselves, well, Chris Olave, he has over 70 catches. He have 1,000 yards, and he only played 15 games. And Brock Purdy, he only been a quarterback for the 49ers for a cup of coffee. And, then you have Garrett Wilson. I want to say this very, very clearly. I want you to understand this. The NFL is a popularity contest. I'm going to say that again. The NFL is a popularity contest. They are big on storylines and things that move the needle. And the people that are voting are members of the media. And we all know that the media loves a juicy story. They love a comeback story. They love an underdog story. And if they can do their part to push that agenda, then they're going to do it. Look at these individuals, folks. Look at them. Okay? Look at the 3 people they selected, 3 players they selected. Let's start first with Kenneth Walker. Kenneth Walker started off the season. He wasn't even a starter. Rashad Penny was, right? Rashad Penny ended up getting injured in a game versus the Saints. And Kenneth Walker runs, a 60-yard touchdown against the New Orleans Saints and never looked back. He went over 1,000 yards. Looked really, really good. I don't know if anybody follows the Seahawks like that, but the dude is a really good running back. And not to mention the Seattle Seahawks got to the playoffs, all right? That's very, very important. Then you have the New York Jets. Do I need to say anything else, right? Big media market, always the center of attention, no matter if they're losing or not. You got yourself a guy that can catch the ball, that's a dog out there in Garrett Wilson. Of course, they're going to put a lot of eyes and a lot of attention on him being in the New York market, being a wide receiver for a New York team. That's another. And then Brock Purdy. Come on, man. The dude was Mr. Irrelevant, picked last in this past draft, and he is undefeated as of right now. He was 5-0 going into the postseason with 14 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. Dude is an underdog. Once again, they love an underdog story. I'm talking about the sports writer, the Associated Press. They love stories like this. So, of course, they're going to put him out there. And it wouldn't surprise me at all if he doesn't win it, because that's just the way that it goes. Like, we all know that's how they vote. Like, these were votes by the media. So that's the way they vote. It's almost like with the Heisman, right? You can pick defensive players to win the Heisman. You can pick a cornerback. You can but they rather try their best to pick a quarterback or a running back, right? If you look at Devontae Smith when he won the Heisman, I mean, it was a COVID year and people were barely even playing. If Smith would have been playing in a year that wasn't abnormal like the pandemic year, he wouldn't have won a Heisman. That's just the way it goes, man. It is more about the storylines more so than the actual individual. Now, I know I got a lot of people upset when I said this, but I say it here. I wouldn't take anybody off that list to put Chris Olave. I'm sorry. I would not take anybody off that list to replace them with Chris Olave. Chris Olave caught a lot of passes because, I mean, who else was going to catch him? Like, seriously, who else was going to catch these passes? I mean, Marquez Callaway was in the doghouse. You had Deontay Hardy. He wasn't playing. I mean, what other wide receiver was going to catch this? Michael Thomas is injured. Jarvis Landry is injured. Who are you going to build your team around? I mean, Chris Olave got a lot of targets. So was it impressive that he got 1,000 yards? Yeah, because if you get 1,000 yards, it's pretty tough. But Garrett, if I'm being honestly, and I'm being 100%, Chris Olave is not the best wide receiver in this class based on what I saw. Garrett Wilson is better than he is. There was too many times where Chris Olave had an opportunity to really separate himself from, like, we shouldn't even be having this conversation. He had opportunities to separate himself from this conversation. But when a game is on the line, how many times have we seen this dude drop the ball? How many times have we seen this dude fumble the football? How many times have we seen this dude come up short? And I think that the game that everybody was paying attention to, and it was probably one of his worst games, it was nationally televised. It was on Monday Night Football. It was when the Saints took on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I know you all remember that, when Andy Dalton threw a pass to him and it would have set the Saints up. Now, I don't know if the Saints would have scored, but it would have put the Saints in the red zone, and he drops the ball. He drops it. The game versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. You know, like, he was supposed to come down with the football. They ruled it not being a catch. It's too many times where Chris Olave had the eyes of the nation on him, and he came up short. And when these media people are picking and deciding who is going to be the finalist, those games come up. That's all I'm saying. Not to say that, okay, I'm not saying to sneeze at 1,000 yards and 4 touchdowns, but I understand why they didn't select him. I mean, Garrett Wilson, to me, is better than he is at this stage of his career. Like, honestly, even George Pickens at this time, because of his mind frame and his energy, I feel like is better. But that's not to say that Chris Olave won't end up being that way. I just think that Chris Olave, I think there's a reason why Chris Olave was a vertical threat at Ohio State, and you had Garrett Wilson that was more of the, you know, the possession guy, the guy that was out there winning the 50-50 balls. I think that what the Saints wanted Chris Olave to do his rookie year, he didn't get opportunity to do it. Because I think that the Saints would have picked him as more of a vertical threat and had, like, Michael Thomas and them working the field, him and Jarvis Landry. So because of those two guys' injuries, it caused them to kind of speed up the process with Olave, and a lot of the things that he needs to work on, you know, he had to kind of do it in real time. So the sky's the limit for the guy. Now, do I feel like the way I feel right now is an indication of what the future holds? No, because I think that the way that the Saints positioned Olave, you know, I mean, it probably was a blessing in disguise, because now he comes in and he goes into his second season. And if he gets himself a little bit stronger, get a little bit more muscle on him, you know, and be able to come down with some of those passes and get a little bit more physical, I think we'll have a different conversation. But look, I'm not one of those people that just gonna wave the pom-poms. Like, if you ask me, and I'm just gonna keep it a buck. If Rashid Shaheed was in the same position as they put Chris Olave, then we'll be talking about Rashid Shaheed. Rashid Shaheed, like, to me, is no different than what Chris Olave is. Like, seriously, I look at them as, like, on the same scale. All right, and it's crazy to say that because Chris Olave is a first-round draft pick. He's a guy that's sort of, like, separated himself. But do you see, like, a difference between Olave and Shaheed? No. Like, I just feel like let's just say there was no Chris Olave and you had Rashid Shaheed. Rashid Shaheed would have had 70-some catches, 1,040-some odd yards, and 4 touchdowns. So I don't know. I think that it was based on the targets, him being thrust into that number one spot prematurely. And I think that, you know, that had a lot to do with it. Not to say that he's not good. I'm just saying, like, I understand why they didn't select him. Because, like I said, the sports writers, they're the ones that select these guys. And when you're watching a team on national TV and their star receiver, the guy that everybody was ranting and raving about, had, like, one of his worst performances, that's all they got to go off of. Because the thing is, Who Dat Nation, these guys aren't watching Saints games like us. They're not. They're not watching it. So they get it, like, in sample size. It's almost like they're watching the red zone. So when you have the opportunity to have the eyes of the nation on you, you got to be able to rise to the occasion. You got to be able to do that. And no matter if they're singing your praises or not, if they see you and there's opportunity for them to see you and you're not doing what all the prognosticators were saying that you're doing, well, it's going to make them kind of reluctant to vote for you. So I think that's what it is. So I'm not mad at it. I'm not mad at it. That's not to say that Chris Olave, didn't have a good season. And what are we doing? Like, honestly, what are we doing? Like, even if he was a finalist, he wasn't going to win. I mean, because we know that they try to give that to guys whose teams have been in the postseason or playing in the Super Bowl, right? So I don't think he would have won it anyway. At best, he probably would have just got a trip to NFL honors. That's probably what he would have got, because he wasn't going to win it. And that's something that I know for a fact that probably wouldn't happen, because you got so many people that think much highly of Garrett Wilson than they do Chris Olave. And then you have Kenneth Walker out there who basically went over 1,000 yards, and he started around week 5, week 6 as a starter. So, man, this dude kind of went on a tear for like 10 or 11 games. So he wasn't going to win it. Like, he would have got the trip. Like, he probably would have got the hotel accommodations and be able to, dress up and look nice, but he wasn't going to win. I mean, that's just my opinion. But let me go ahead and read some of your comments. Offensive Rookie of the Year should be Purdy. I don't know if he played 5 games. He was great. If not, it should be Olave. Look, like I said, if I was picking Chris Olave, I would just be doing it based on being peer bias. That's just the way I feel. I'm sorry. I would just be being biased because I'm a Saints fan. I feel like, and I watch Garrett Wilson a lot, right? I watched a lot of, like, based on what I seen, he was better. The only difference is he had other people that could get the ball just like him, so he had to spread it around. Who was Chris Olave competing with? Who was he competing with for targets? There were times where Chris Olave would get 11, 12 targets per game versus Garrett Wilson, who probably will get about 5 or 6, and he'll probably catch all 5 or, catch all 6 or miss 1. So he was like, you had other guys out there. You had like Elijah Moore out there. You had Corey Davis out there. You had CJ Uzama out there. I mean, you had other people that can share the ball. I mean, if Chris Olave didn't catch the ball, who was gonna catch it? Who was gonna catch it? So sometimes numbers and stuff like that can be inflated, and it can say one thing about one guy, and it will probably make you create a narrative about another. But based on what I've seen this season, based on watching these two guys play, Garrett Wilson had a better rookie season than he did. I was thinking the same thing. Remember, Saints fans, Marcus Colston was consistently stellar and never made a Pro Bowl. Let's see. Olave played in 2 less games than Wilson, and he started 3 less, and Wilson had the same amount of targets per game. Let's see. Chris only had 4 touchdowns. Wilson has 4. Olave dropped too many passes to be named Rookie of the Year. 2 fumbles lost and many drop passes that were super hard catches, but he could have caught it. I'm still ticked from that game. Breaking news, not so breaking anymore, Lee, but we'll let you have it. Frank Wright just signed a deal with the Panthers. We already kind of talked about that at the beginning of the show. Actually, everybody hit the like button, by the way, if you enjoyed the State of the Saints podcast. And thank you for that, Keen Arthur, because I just mentioned that. Let's see. If Jameis came back, Olave definitely had bigger numbers. I agree with that. I would agree with that. He probably would have about 1,400 yards, because the one game that his largest receiving yard game came in the game versus Carolina when he almost had 200 yards receiving. I think he had like 180 some odd yards. So, yeah, he probably honestly, I think that he probably would have been looked at a little bit differently by me. And, because Jameis would have been able to utilize Chris Olave's biggest strength, which is his top speed, right? He can take the top off the defense. Like I said, with the injuries to Michael Thomas and Jarvis Landry, it caused Chris Olave to kind of be, work within the, work within the soft spots, right? He wasn't really taking the top off the defense, right? He was just finding the soft spots in the zone and, catching these passes. And luckily for him, he's a very good route runner, but he's an even better vertical threat. So that was the Saints, to me, wanting him to do. I don't think it was a coincidence. Most of the time when we was watching the footage from practice, you were seeing Jameis Winston throw that thing down the field 40, 50 yards, and Chris Olave was running under, because I feel like that's what they wanted him to be. He was going to be the vertical threat. He was going to be the one that take the top off the defense. And I think that instead of 4 touchdowns, I think it probably would have been double. I think he probably would have had like 8, maybe 9, right? And I think that his numbers he probably would have had about 1,400 yards as well, because I think he would have had more 100-yard games than he ended up having this season. What up, TJ, bro? How are you, TJ? Are you ready for the Super Bowl? The final 2 games of the week. What is Chris Olave not Academy for Rookie of the Year? Why is Chris Olave not on that list? I don't think he's not on the list. I think if the list is like top 5, he's like number 4. So he's just on the outside looking in. Like, I'm telling you, like at best, he would just find his way to NFL honors. He would just find his way to NFL honors. He wasn't going to win. I do not see him. I cannot see him winning with a guy who plays in the New York market with the same type of numbers that he had. A guy who team made the playoffs and he's a running back and he went over 1,000 yards. And a guy who don't even supposed to be in the spot that he's in. Just the biggest outlier. He can go down in history as the biggest outlier in NFL history. So at best, to me, Chris Olave would have just made a trip and put on a nice tuxedo. Let's see. Honestly, I agree. Shaheed showed up every time his name was called. Olave is a compliment to Mike T, and Shaheed is a compliment to Olave. I think, like, to me, I don't see too much of a difference between Shaheed and Olave. Not this season, at least. Like, I'm pretty sure, like, next year you'll probably see a separation, which you should, and that separation should include Chris Olave stepping out to being that true number 1 that we want him to be. If it's 2 things that can happen, right? If they end up coming back to training camp and off-season activities and Shaheed is on the same level as Olave, I would be wondering how good Chris Olave is. Not to say that Shaheed isn't good, but I'm just saying, like, there should be a separation between the 2. But watching these guys last season, I mean, if Chris Olave didn't exist and the Saints had Rashid Shaheed, I think Rashid Shaheed would have put up the same type of numbers. I think he would have put up the same type of numbers as Chris Olave. I mean, I could be wrong, but based on what I seen, how this dude number was when his number was called, he always answered. The way his big playmaking ability, I think their numbers would have been the same. Olave is definitely the better player, a better route runner. I told my brother the best wide receiver on the team is Shaheed. I don't think as far as fundamentals, Olave is better. But you wouldn't be able to tell that by watching last season, because it looked like they was kind of on the same playing field. Second of all, why do we even care about the MVP? It's just a popularity contest. Ramsey, that's what I've been saying. Like, when people getting upset and all up in arms, that's exactly what they want you to do. Like, the sports writers that vote and put all this stuff out there, they want us to have this barbershop talk about who got snubbed, who should be there, who shouldn't be there. That's what they want, right? And they knew the Brock Purdy selection was going to warrant this type of conversation. I don't know if I agree with that, Josh. I don't know. Let's see. I'm going to scroll down a little bit. Olave was being bracketed in some games because defenses knew he was the number 1 receiver. No excuse for the drops. But the kid had a great year, and I think he would have produced more with a better quarterback. Oh, yeah, no doubt about that. Like, I said it. Like, his touchdown numbers probably would have been doubled. You probably would have seen a little bit of an uptick when it comes to his receiving yards. Yeah, he would have been better. He would have been better. The Jets had the momentum the first half of the season, so Wilson and Sauce were looked at more than our losing pedestrian offense. Well, yeah, and you probably going to see what you seen back in 2017. you're going to see Garrett Wilson win Offensive Rookie of the Year, and you're going to see Sauce Gardner win Defensive Rookie of the Year. Kind of like with Alvin Kamara and Marshawn Lattimore. It wouldn't surprise me at all. I mean, when you no disrespect to Kenneth Walker or anything like that, but man, these are New York guys. Like, they play on a team that's in a big media market, and they're finding success. So it wouldn't surprise me at all if we see what we seen back in 2017 when you have the Offensive and Defensive Rookie of the Year on the same team. I picked Olave off the stats and ignored those hard drops. Yeah, I mean, look, but you know the crazy thing about it? You know, if Chris Olave didn't play for the Saints, right, and let's just say he got picked, and Garrett Wilson played for the Saints and he didn't get picked, we'll be, man, you seen all them drops he had? Man, what about that game versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? Like, we would have been bringing that up. But because he's our guy, we kind of just let the imperfection slide. Like, I can't do that, man. Look, I don't feel like anybody should. I think we should be real. Like, nobody's talking about the imperfections or talking about the drops that he have because he's our guy. And that played a huge role in why I feel like he wasn't a finalist. Because the games in which that were televised, he didn't really show up. Or, you know, he had like a fumble or, you know, like a drop. Like, you can't do that. Now, you remember that game versus Tampa Bay Buccaneers? That was America, like the first time, right? When they threw that deep pass down the field, Jameis threw a deep pass down the field to him and he fumbled the football, right? That was a nationally televised game where you had a bunch of people eyes on it. And then yet again, you did it again when you went to Tampa, you know. So, man, like, guys are looking at that stuff. Media people are looking at that stuff. And that probably was one of the deal breakers. Like, man, this is the guy that everybody's been talking about. I would have joined the Saints, but I didn't want the IB ripping them dude to start calling me Fort Wright. Frank Wright, thank you very much, man. Congratulations to you. I'll leave it at this. Olave averaged better stats per game in almost every category. That's because he got more targets, man. Like, that's because he got more targets. That's because he got more attention. Like, who else were you going to throw the ball to? Versus like Garrett Wilson, like I said, he's sharing the ball with like 2-3 other receivers that can go get it just as much as him. So, I mean, Chris Olave is going to become like the center of attention. Like, we can try to make sense out of this all we want to, but like, the Saints didn't make the playoffs. They were a boring football team. Nobody was really interested in them at all. And the guys that you're competing against, once again, they play in a larger market that people care about, rather the team wins or loses. In order for the Saints to get the attention of the masses, they got to do more than what the other team does, right? Like, the Cowboys can lose every single game, and they still gonna start SportsCenter talking about the Cowboys. The Jets can be losers for the rest of their existence, and they still gonna get talked about. When you got teams like the Saints, when you got teams like the Jags, when you got teams like the Vikings, when you got teams like that are considered like small market teams, they got to win and they got to produce in order for anybody to care about anything they're doing, no matter how great it is. So Chris Olave was a victim of that as well. And like I said, not to mention you have other guys out here that got better storylines than what Chris Olave and the Saints are going. I mean, Brock Purdy, I mean, that's a storyline like ready to be written. And then, you know, you can also just add on like Kenneth Walker, like, because nobody expected the Seahawks to do a doggone thing this season. So it's not so much about the talent or the stats or anything like that. If they feel like the stats are kind of relatively close, because here's the thing, KT, nobody is going to be sitting up here looking at stats and statistics like you doing it right now. Like, people only do that stuff when they trying to justify the wrongdoing of somebody. But anybody else that probably don't have a dog in the fight, so to speak, that's not a fan of the team, they ain't going to care. like, oh, Garrett Wilson, he had he must have had a better year than Chris Olave. Nobody cares at the end of the day. Bro, we made no changes. We basically ran it back with the trash. We have Panthers at this moment, or better, just saying, in my opinion. Yeah, man, the Panthers are a good football team. They just need a quarterback and a coach. To me, right now, they definitely got the best coach in the division. Panthers hire their coach. Broncos may go Ryan. Now, are we running out of teams for Payton? No, ideal. Not ideal. Excuse me, says Cajunomics. Cajunomics, I'm over that whole Sean Payton situation. Look, the Saints brought this on themselves. They did it to themselves. Their arrogance got them to this point. Their arrogance put them in this position that they're in right now because they had a false sense of reality of who they really were. And they also didn't take into account the coach that stepped down and moved on. And they just thought that they can just fill it in with just any random guy, any Tom, Dick, and Dennis Allen that you can find. So they brought it on themselves. Like, I guess we feel desperate as a fan base a little bit because we feel like, man, all hope is lost. And maybe if we can just get a first round draft pick, maybe it could right the wrong of what happened last year or in last year's draft. Man, I don't know. They brought it on themselves. Like, if the Saints are just sitting back and just thinking, man, I hope that Sean Payton find a team so we can get this first round draft pick. Please, if they thinking like that, man, everybody need to be fired. They need to find ways to, based on what they are right now, they need to find ways for them to find a winning recipe. I don't feel bad for them. And I'm definitely ain't sitting around like waiting for Sean Payton to take a job so we can get a first round draft pick, because I think that we got like this we got this false sense of hope, that everybody was going to be beating down the door for Sean Payton. And Sean Payton just got a slap in the face. Like, no matter what you think of yourself, we can find guys that are just as good as you and we can get them for much cheaper than you. So this is a harsh reality right now. But the Saints brought it on themselves. They got to find a way to get themselves out of it. Many are called, but few are chosen. Kingston. Purdy is winning it. Jets didn't make the playoffs, and Geno Smith was a more of a story than Walker. Yeah, I mean, but when we know that Geno Smith more than likely going to win comeback player of the year. Brock Purdy. Yeah, I mean, like, it's a good story. It's a good story. All right, it writes itself. Picked dead last in the draft. Nobody expected for you to be in the NFL, but here you are, and you're playing in one of the biggest moments in the NFL, right? The NFC Championship game. I mean, that story writes itself. But I will say this: if that does happen, then I'm definitely going to be questioning the validity of the NFL. Like, are we going with who the best player is, or are we just going with storylines? I mean, it's obvious you're going with storylines, but like, don't make it so blatant that you're trying to go with storylines. Because Brock Purdy went 5-0 as a starter, yes, but all these rest of these guys have played in 10 plus games. You got to take that into account. You're right. He's our guy. And if it's my guy versus their guy, then it's close. My guy is the guy. Exactly. That's just the way that it goes. We're going to find ways to make it work when it works and when it benefits us. And we're going to try to find ways to not make it work when it doesn't benefit us. But, that but I don't feel like that's not the right thing to do. Sometimes we got to look at things objectively and take our biases out of it. Like, when I evaluate a guy, I evaluate a guy based on, what they're doing or what they have done and what the trajectory is, like, I feel like that's fair because, we all want to be judged like that. Let's be real. Is DA fault for playing Andy Dalton? Jameis would have had him at 1,400 yards easily. I agree with that. Olave averaged 7.9 targets a game. Wilson with 8.6, I believe. Just saying, but I definitely understand where you're coming from, TJ, with the eye test on Wilson and Olave. Yeah, both of these, like I said, both of these guys are extremely talented, and I appreciate that. Those statistics right there. I'm looking at it from, like I said, I'm looking at it from a regional standpoint. I'm looking at it from who they play for. I'm looking at the personality that they have, and I'm also looking at the moments that they have. Like somebody mentioned this, and I apologize because I can't remember who did, but the Jets had a roaring start, right? It was a moment where people was like, man, the Jets may be one of the best teams in the league. I mean, they had like a 6-game stretch where you thought they were the best team in the league. And during that time, Garrett Wilson really was like on a tear, handling up on his business. He was the guy that people were focused on. They had a whole spiel about Elijah Moore in the locker room being upset, talking about he don't get no targets, all these different things that were going on. And I just think in the process, you had the Giants winning and the New York Jets winning, and everybody in New York was going crazy, and nobody kind of did any damage control after that. Like people just kept it up here. Like, man, the Jets, they were playing pretty good this season. So, Garrett Wilson was going to be thrust into that, into the forefront. But I just think that it has a lot to do with where they play. And also, I just feel like when it came down to it, Chris Olave on national TV, when the whole world was watching, he didn't play well. Our record was one win worse than the Jets. Olave averaged less targets per game. I don't think the point you're making are true. Well, yeah, you know what I'm saying? I definitely misquote when it comes to like the targets. I'm looking at it from a primary, I guess I'm looking at it from a primary target, like who else you gonna throw the ball to besides Olave versus a guy who, had other pieces around him. Like if he wasn't playing or, he was like, dealing with an ailment or something like that, other guys could go get it too. Corey Davis can get it. He can go out there and he can get the football. Elijah Moore is the same way. CJ Uzama is another guy, tight end that played for the Bengals last year. So that's the way that I was looking at it. But all I'm saying is this. You can whine and boo-hoo about it all day, all night. The Jets are a more popular team than the New Orleans Saints, period. So if they got a guy that's doing something, if they got a guy that's doing it better or on the same scale, the Saints are not going to get, they're not going to get the benefit of the doubt. That's just something that you just going to have to come to grips with. If you got two guys that are on the same playing field, doing the same stuff, one guy plays for a team in which the market is huge, right? They're going to elevate this guy, right? They're going to elevate this guy. They're going to push this guy. They're going to put this dude to the forefront. And they're going to make that guy who probably had the same numbers as him and play in a smaller market, it's going to make him look, microscopic. And that's what happened. Like, you think anybody care? Oh, the Jets had one win worse than, the Saints had one win less than the Jets. Who cares? It's the Jets. They're a New York team, and the Saints have a small media market that can't touch the Jets. So if a guy for the Jets is doing better, that's just the way that it's going to be. I don't make the rules, man. You can come up with all these different type of statistics all you want to, all day, all night. Nobody cares. How many times have we seen Drew Brees put up great numbers for years? Never was MVP, right? Always was outshined by somebody else who got the majority of the attention. Always got outshined by Aaron Rodgers. Always got outshined by Payton Manning. Always got outshined by Tom Brady, even though his numbers look great. Even though, he was doing it at a high level. So that's just what it is. Sorry, Jets are not more popular than the Saints. No one up there cares about the Jets. The Giants fans. Man, I don't know I don't know where you stay. I don't know where you stay at, but like I said, that is not true. That is not true. Those people, New Yorkers, And people around that surrounding area, they love the Jets. they love the Jets. And you can talk about as far as relevancy, as far as playing the game. Okay, the Saints, you know what I'm saying? As far as like success over the last couple of years, you know what I'm saying, years, over a decade and a half, yeah, the Saints. But we ain't touch we're not. This ain't even worth a conversation. We not like Louisiana is not touching the New York market at all. We ain't touching it. Like don't let those, you know what I'm saying? Don't let those few people like in Louisiana and then you travel out and you see somebody with a fleur-de-lis hat on. Like New York is a mecca when it comes to news. A mecca. Like all the major news outlets, sports news outlets cover New York sports, no matter if the team is good or not. Like the Mets, as trash as they've been, right? They still, you know what I'm saying? They still getting attention. That's just the way that it is, man. That's just the way that it goes. And and honestly, the reason why nobody was talking about them is because they weren't doing anything. The Jets, think about this. The Jets, like I said, they started the season off extremely hot. And then once they start winning, they won like in that 6-game span, man, they were like red hot. All the sports shows was talking about the Jets. People going absolutely insane out there in New York City. When the Jets win, when the Jets do anything that's above what they've been doing in the past, they're gonna put them boys on at the forefront. So I mean, like I said, I don't make the rules. I'm just telling you that the media moves the needle. And when you have a team in New York City, in Philadelphia, they're always going to trump like some of these smaller market teams. Great hire by the Carolina Panthers. If I remember correctly, Frank Wright wanted Jameis Winston. I could see Jameis in Carolina, and I wouldn't want to see Jameis revenge tour versus the South. Yeah, I mean, look, I think it's a good hire, and I think that it's going to benefit their team. The Saints are just going to have to figure out a way to try to fix the issues that they have and make themselves competitive. Prediction: Payton will go back to Fox. He screwed the Saints so many ways. Karma is an undefeated mistress. Jersey cares about the Jets. I believe that. If the NFL is so concerned about big markets, then why did they give us a team in the first place? That's not our fault. No, it's not saying that they don't care. Like, it's not to say that they don't, they don't care about smaller markets. I'm just saying, like, the ones that put the eyes on the product, they feel. The ones that are going to be glued to the television are the ones that they cater to, which is the larger market teams. Like, why do you think no matter how trash the Dallas Cowboys have been, they always talking about it? How come you think every time, some other team like the Giants or, all these other teams out here ain't been winning nothing? Why do you think that they always constantly still talk about them? Why don't you, like, the NFC East was one of the best divisions in football this season, but how many years have they been one of the worst? And yet they still got all the attention. It's not to say that they don't care about the smaller market teams. It's just the fact that they're not in the business of trying to elevate those teams. They rather try to focus on the teams that, that are in bigger media markets. Olave had no chance at Offensive Player of the Year versus guys like the Cheetah, Jetta, AJ Brown, Travis Kelce, etc. I think we missing a point here, aka. Look, it's not Offensive Player of the Year. It was Offensive Rookie of the Year, and I agree. Like, if he was up against that type of competition, he probably wouldn't make it. But lucky for him, he's going for Rookie of the Year. Let's see. Why can't any teams ever cover Kelce? It's just the matchup. It's the way that they use him, and it's also, man, man, Andy Reid is such a genius, man. It's the way that they use him, right? So if you watch the game against the Jacksonville Jaguars, they would have him almost like have him playing as if he's like a blocker, he'll be a blocking tight end, right? And he'll just stay in like one spot. And then as like the linebacker, like, oh man, he ain't about to run no route. They'll go out and try to help out on defense on like a slot receiver, or maybe move to like, maybe the X receiver. And then he'll just sneak out. He'll just shoot out and he's just wide open. It's the way that they use him, man. It's the delay. It's the delay blocking that he does. So he will stand up, he'll block and he'll jam, and he'll constantly move his hands like this. And then when nobody just think that he gonna be a pass catcher on the play, he just shoots out. And it's also, like I said, it's just the way that they have him lined up. Go back and watch that game. That is hard to defend. That's the reason why they can't guard him, because you don't know if he's gonna stay in as a blocker. Now, you could easily say, well, why don't you always just have a spy on him? Well, it's kind of like pick your poison. When you have those guys on the outside, if they playing one-on-one and let's just say Juju gets open, right? I mean, that's a touchdown right there. So if you got a linebacker like spying, you think about this. You got the linebacker that got to look at Kelce, and then you got to think about McKinnon in the backfield, or a running back that's in the backfield, and then you got to account for Kelce. So if Kelce not moving, and you see this running back going into motion, I gotta guard him. If I don't, he gonna catch the ball. That leaves him wide open, and the only person that can get him maybe is another safety, or if you have another nickel out there, and he gonna win that matchup every time because he's much bigger and much stronger than they are. So it's a beautiful thing to watch, man. It's a lot. It's a lot going on. It's a lot going on, and it's hard. You at home, you wondering hey, how they can't guard this dude? But I'm telling you, in real time, when you man, your head is on a swivel and you looking left and right, you trying to figure out who you need to guard. I mean, it's tough. If you guard him, then guess what? I mean, the running back gonna eat all day, right? So that's that. It works. It's just the way that Andy Reid does that. That touchdown that he caught in the red zone was just a prime example of how you just can't guard this dude. Nobody would have thought that he would have scored that touchdown based on how he was positioned. It looked like he was just in just a block, as if it was a running play or something, or he was a part of a jumbo pack. And the man is awesome, man. I want Olave to win Offensive Rookie of the Year, but compared to the season that Kamara had as a rookie, it's not even close to being that dynamic. Yeah, I mean, look, Kamara kind of came on down the stretch because for a long period, a lot of people thought that Kareem Hunt was going to win Rookie of the Year. And then all of a sudden, after that Detroit Lions game and Kamara's Rookie Year, he just took off, and it was just his award to lose. Chris Olave ain't winning no award with Andy Dalton as his quarterback. I'll be dang. Well, I mean, he put up the numbers to be in that conversation, so it's possible, I guess. Why can't any teams ever cover Kelce? I already kind of went over that. TJ, if you don't do something this offseason, especially leading up to the draft, maybe it's going to be a problem, or Loomis putting all his chips forward. Yeah, you definitely got to do something this season. I don't know exactly what they're going to do. But they got to figure something out. But, man, we'll see, man. I don't think the Saints are going to be as bad as we think they're going to be. It's giving me Seattle Seahawks vibes. How everybody just thought Seattle was just going to fall off the face of the earth when Russell Wilson left, and they still was pretty formidable. Man, they just need the Saints need a running back, and they need themselves a quarterback. I feel like you need a running back, and you need to be able to establish the running game. That's what I feel like the Saints need. I feel like if you can run the ball, hold on to the football. My goodness. Hold on to the football. You'll be all right. But they got to find ways to run the football, and they definitely got to find ways to be more creative offensively. Because that offense that the Saints have, that, man, that they need to do something with that. I feel like they look, if you're gonna bring back P. Carmichael, whatever. All right. But I don't think that it should just be them. I think they need some fresh, young, energetic ideas in that facility. Like that 3 yards in the cloud that does that boring conservative mentality is not going to produce anything. That is a losing culture that they're creating out there in New Orleans, man, and that's concerning. It's more concerning than even having Dennis Allen as a head coach. It's about, do these guys believe that they can win? Do these guys believe that you're putting them in the best position to succeed? And also, how appealing is this spot if you're a free agent? Because you may be a piece away, and a guy might come visit and he might see the quarterback situation or the offensive situation. That might be a turnoff to him, but like, man, I'm going to be at to work twice as hard. And I want to make the playoffs. I want to be able to get a chance and a shot at a championship. And guys want to feel like they got some hope, you know, but looking at the Saints, man, sometimes it makes you as a fan feel hopeless. So I can only imagine the guys that's putting in the work every single day, how they feel. TJ, the title says Offensive Player of the Year. Just letting you know, unless you meant that. Oh, my bad. Well, I apologize. Let me see if I can fix this real quick. Offensive Rookie of the Year. Okay, let me go ahead and fix that. All right, let me fix it on a couple of these channels here. Thank you for that. Yeah, I meant offensive Rookie of the Year. All right, so let me go ahead and fix that, save that real quick. All right, but anyway, we'll correct that. But thank you, man. But I meant Offensive Rookie of the Year. Thank you for that, correcting it. You're right, TJ. Right now, they're giving me Miami vibes back when they had Fitzpatrick. Roger, thank you very much for the $5. Says, I think they should give Jameis Winston another chance. I think they should, but more than likely it's not going to happen. They're going to go in a different direction. But I could be wrong. You know, everybody thought that Pete Carmichael was on his way out the door, so we'll see. My theory is Sean is doing a pony show this coaching cycle. Saints kept most of the coaches. DA will be fired, and Sean will be back. Vic Fangio will be the DC in the following season. Well, that's an interesting way of looking at it, and that's something I ain't gonna lie crossed my mind. But my biggest concern is you stepping away from the game, and the guys that you stepped away from, some of them still being in the locker room. Like, how would that affect them as far as like your coaching style and the message that you have to the locker room? And those guys are in leadership roles. So interesting to see what they'll be doing with that going forward. But look, I don't know what the dog and pony show for. Like, the only thing this is showing me is that you're not as hot as you thought you were, right? Nobody, like, I don't know if you thought, like, as soon as you step out and say, oh, I'm interested in coaching again, everybody was like, ooh, me, and they pushing people out the way. But as you can see, man, these coaches, well, not these coaches, but these owners are watching these coaches that are young and vibrant and energetic and innovative. And they can, like I said, they can pay these guys $5-10 million for their first shot as being a head coach. But then here you coming in almost 60 years old, if not 60, you know, and, you know, you got your one Super Bowl and 60% winning percentage, but, you know, that ain't impressing nobody, you know, not like that, especially if you can get a coach that's younger that can do some of the same things you're doing. So I think that, you know, it didn't pan out the way that he thought it was going to be. I don't know if Sean Payton listened to the media a little bit too much. Maybe, you know, he was listening to these type of scenarios and, oh, he can play here. I heard that this team would die to have a guy like this. And maybe he thought like he was hotter than what he was, and it turns out he wasn't. And maybe he just stepped up in there, thought he was going to call his shot, and everybody was just going to fall and be like, oh, yeah, whatever you want, Sean, whatever you want. And then all of a sudden, like when you start talking, and these guys like, man, I don't know if I want to give you this. I don't know if I want to give you that. Well, let me call up Frank Wright. You know, let me call up D'Amico Ryans, right? Let me call up, you know, one of these other coaches out here. Hey, man, no matter how good you think you are, man, sometimes you need that slap of reality. Sometimes we can get too too high on our horse that we think that we holier than thou or we're better than we actually are, in the eyes of others. But I mean, I don't know. I think these owners want to go in a different direction, and they want to win with guys that they find, not some guy that already been established already. Especially if they talking about getting paid $20 million. We will win 2 games next season, then fire Dennis Allen. Then we will draft the USC quarterback with the first pick in the 2024 NFL draft. I ain't gonna lie, based on some of these moves and what we've seen, that wouldn't be that would you would be hard pressed not to partially agree with what you're saying, but I don't think they're gonna be as bad as we think. I think they're gonna be better than a lot of people think that they are. I just think that we looked at this team this season and we're like, I think our expectations of 11 and 12 games, and they end up winning 6 or 7, and it just kind of just broke us. So now we just expect the worst because we don't have any confidence in anybody in that organization right now from a coaching perspective. Was really hoping you capitalize on getting some draft capital for Payton. I think we all did. But, I mean, if that don't work, you got to make sure that you have the right people in place in order for you to get something that you need. Jermaine Johnson, the edge from Florida State. The Jets also picked up, but he was not that impactful yet. Nah, but he will be. He will be. He's just a little raw. He reminds me of, what's the dude name? Somebody help me out. He played for the Lions, and he went to BYU. Y'all know what I'm talking about, man. Somebody help me out. His name is on the tip of my tongue. But he ended up playing for the Lions. Pretty doggone good. Played a little bit with Ndamukong Suh. Somebody about to give me a name. Yeah, thank you. Ziggy Ansah. Thank you. Ziggy Ansah. Thank you so much. Can't think of his name. But yeah, that's who he remind me of. He came in, he was raw. And they worked with him and he was pretty good. Caused out himself a pretty decent career. TJ, when you put up the comparison with McCarthy, that exposed the real and teams fell back. Now, I ain't got nothing to do with that, man. I ain't got nothing to do with that. I don't have anything to do with that. I don't want to believe I got that type of influence. If I do, then somebody need to be fired. It's just as simple as that. I just wonder sometimes. I just be asking questions, or I have I just have these thoughts. I have thoughts about these things. Why is it that the NFL world looks at Mike McCarthy one way and looked at Sean Payton another way? I mean, both of these guys had legendary quarterbacks, right? Both of these guys who they coach are going to end up in the Hall of Fame. Drew Brees and Aaron Rodgers. Both of these guys have a 60% winning percentage. Both of these guys have won Super Bowl, but yet everybody in Dallas is talking about, firing Mike McCarthy for Sean Payton. There's no difference. The only difference that I can see is Sean Payton's personality. That's it. Sean Payton is Mike McCarthy with a personality. That's the only thing that I see. I'm just saying. And I'm also saying that based on the things that I just mentioned, teams are looking you won a lot of games, but I ain't too many Super Bowls was out there. Now, I feel like this would be a different case. Now, if Bill Belichick, if he left the Patriots, I don't think we'll be having this conversation. I think that it would be one of those Andy Reid situations. It would be Andy Reid stepped down, or they were going to fire him anyway from Philadelphia. He left on Sunday and was the head coach of the Kansas City Chiefs on Tuesday. That's kind of how it was. So I think it'll be the same way with Bill Belichick. After all this, the one thing I'm glad didn't happen was Drew Brees coming back like he considered last offseason. I love that man, but he was clearly a shell of his former self last season. Well, look, if we talking about Drew Brees, man, I love Drew Brees, but we're going into year 3. Drew Brees being retired. So I don't know. I think it's just time for us to move on, man. Time for us to move on. You know, I definitely feel like, you know, Drew Brees, you know, he gave the city of New Orleans everything he had, man. He gave him everything he had. And now it's time for us to try to find somebody else that can fill that man's shoes. Jets had the best draft: Sauce Gardner, Garrett Wilson, and Brees Hall. Let's see. Wow. Second is the Seahawks with Tariq Woolen, Kenneth Walker, and Charles Cross. Oh, yeah. And then you got to put Abraham Lucas on there, too. Charles Cross, Abraham Lucas. Both of these guys, you know, one was the left tackle, which is Charles Cross. Right tackle is Abraham Lucas from Washington State. So, yeah. I mean, all of them had, like, really good drafts, solid drafts. You know, I mean, and you look at the Saints. The Saints had a pretty decent draft. You know, like, I mean, you had Chris Olave, pretty good. What we seen from Trevor Penny, you know, he has great upside. We seen some time we pancaking guys and finishing plays. What can we not say about Lante Taylor? A lot of people feel like, you know, he should be the starter next season. Then you have other guys that were like undrafted and stuff like that, like Rashid Shaheed. You know, like he had a really good season. And then you also have another guy who I'm very excited about seeing, and he had a really good camp before he ended up getting injured. That's DeMarco Jackson. So you have yourself a young linebacker, you know, that's out there that's probably going to be able to make plays, and he good in coverage. So the Saints didn't have a bad draft either. But, yeah, I can see what you're saying. They definitely had, like, one of the top drafts. The same comparison, I already read that. I think teams are starting to realize exactly what you're saying. TJ and the juice isn't worth the squeeze. I hear that term is so long. But yeah, I definitely feel like people are probably taking that into consideration. Like, it's not like we talking about Belichick here. It's not like we talking about, I don't know, a multi-time Super Bowl winning coach, right? Talking about a guy who won one Super Bowl, won a whole bunch of games, and couldn't really get the job done, you know, with a legendary quarterback. And there were times, if you go back and look, you know, Sean Payton cost the Saints games by being too arrogant, being too full of himself, overthinking himself. And not to say that nobody wouldn't hire him. I'm just saying, like, some of the things you probably demanding is like for a guy that's been winning multiple Super Bowls, not some guy that just won 60% of his games, won Super Bowl with a legendary quarterback. You guys see how the media shifts their narrative, though. They were propping Sean Payton as the savior a week ago. Yep. You see that, right? And that's why I said at the top of the show when I was talking about this voting, I said the media is interested in storylines. Whatever storyline is most compelling, they're going to push that, right? If there's a player out there, you know, that they can select, a guy that's probably, you know, kind of a free spirit or whatever like that, they're going to put the focal point on him, right? Because they want to make stories appealing. So the Sean Payton sweepstakes thing was appealing. But then, you know, I guess they wanted to prop him up. And now that, you know, a week that went by and they're like, man, why are you still out here? So now you got to start doing some digging. Like, why is Sean Payton still on the street? We thought that he should have been picked up as soon as he said that he was the coach again. But here we are, you know, so now you got to dig and try to figure out why nobody want him. And of course, you know, if you've been spending a whole entire week, you know, waving the pom-poms in the air and putting yourself on the line, of course, you know, they're going to go back and renege because their reputation means everything to them. So they're going to go ahead and they're going to try to moonwalk like Michael Jackson, the 25th Motown anniversary. They're going to do it. Because, you know, like, oh, man, Sean is not going to be out here long. He's not going to be out here long. And then all of a sudden, like, when he's still out here, well, you know, I thought he wasn't going to be out here long, but that is until I heard blah, 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 right? Whatever, right? We can't ever just say, man, I thought he was going to be, you know, taken. And then all of a sudden, you know, a week went by, he's still out here. I guess it's my mistake, you know. You know, I thought he was gonna be gone. You know, I guess, you know, the information I put out there wasn't right. We ain't gonna say that though. We ain't gonna say that. We gonna backtrack and moonwalk. When Sean left, he took bad draft picking with him. Unless the Saints win games and make us eat crow next year, I think everybody would enjoy that bowl of crow. You know, nobody would shy away from that crow. We are hoping that we have some crow being eaten next season. Everybody, like include myself. I wish I had about 2-3 bowls of crow. But right now it's looking pretty bleak. You know, we some St. Louis fans right now. You got to show me. You know, you got to show me what you're talking about. When people say teams are beginning to realize, they really mean teams are beginning to stop neglected. These are billion-dollar companies. They know and see all. Exactly. They know what's going on, KT. They know what's happening. They know what the skinny is, man. And it's very few things that they don't know about. Now, they get privy to a lot of stuff that we will never know. Payton liked the idea of coaching Russell Wilson and having that defense, but fears a potential power struggle with a member of the ownership group. So it says, man, we all know that that's a problem with Sean Payton, because it was a problem with Sean Payton when Rita Benson LeBlanc was overseeing the team. Why do you think that Rita Benson LeBlanc got fired? Seriously. Why do you think that her grandfather, the late great Tom Benson, let her go? Like, if we want to keep it a buck, Rita Benson LeBlanc was probably the best. I'm gonna just call her owner, because during the time Tom Benson was kind of, you know, sickly, so he wasn't really doing the day-to-day operations like she was. She was holding these boys accountable, and you know what I'm saying, she was like, and Sean Payton didn't like her, you know, because she demanded excellence. She demanded, you know, things to happen, and kept people on their toes. And wanted people to know, like, man, if you ain't doing your job, then we got a problem. Now, they made it seem like, you know, like she was, you know, like a dictator or something like that, but she wasn't. And it just seemed like to me, like Sean Payton doesn't like that. He wants to be the final say-so when it comes to these situations. But I like it. I feel like, honestly, I wish they had a Rita Benson LeBlanc on staff right now. Because there's no way in hell you'll be sitting around here with Dennis Allen as your head coach and bringing back conservative Pete Carmichael. You know, so I don't think too many people remember that, but Rita Benson LeBlanc, you know, ended up like getting powers taken away from him. You know, and I think it had a lot to do with Sean Payton and her bumping heads. I think you would, if she didn't have the falling out with Tom Benson, and she would have still been around, and let's just say her and Gail Benson was kind of like collaborating together, we wouldn't, you know, I don't think we would be having some of these issues. I liked her a lot. Like I got a lot of respect for her, like for real. Like she understands that football is a business, and it is a business that is about results. It's a results-driven business. Like you put your ego in check, and you do what's best for business. But ain't no way in the world some of this stuff would have been flying if Rita Benson was still around. Yeah, it's like the Saints don't even have an owner. We got an owner who's clueless on the inept coaches. Look, to be fair, Gail Benson inherited this team through marriage, you know. So I think anybody that's expecting her to like rule the Saints world with iron fist, like Tom Benson was during the time he was there, and a lot of the decisions he made was terrible decisions because he would cheat. God rest his soul, but it is what it is. He would cheat, and that's the reason why, you know, you let guys like Leroy Glover go, Joe Johnson, you know, Sammy Knight. Y'all remember the time. Some of y'all remember what I'm talking about. Some of y'all are probably losing. But, you know, during them early 2000s when the Saints had like a bomb defense, you know, you had playmakers on E level, and they just let them boys go because he didn't want to pay him. He didn't want to pay him. So Gail inherited this team. And like I said, I don't expect for her to like be with, just on some Jim Irsay, Jerry Jones type stuff. That's just not who she is. But it's about having the right people in place. But I just think that people too comfortable up there. Like people too comfortable. People, this is a losing franchise, and the guys who are responsible for making this team relevant are still there. So they forever indebted to these guys, right? So they allow these guys to do crazy stuff and make mistakes, and nobody says anything. Oh, you'll get them next time, because it's like if we move on from these guys, we might go back to being losers again. But they slowly starting to kind of seep back to the way that it was, and we don't want that. So hopefully they can go ahead and get over this, and we can move on. But I don't blame Gail Benson for that. Gail Benson is who she is. If you bring Rita back, you will be rooting for the San Antonio Saints. Stop it. I think you got that misinformed, man. Tom Benson was the one that wanted to move the team to San Antonio. And honestly, he never really wanted to do it. He just wanted the Superdome to be renovated again. So he kind of it was a business power play. It was a power play. It was almost like, if you want your son or your daughter to do something, you like, I'm gonna take that video game away from you. You don't go up here and wash these dishes. Like, oh, wait, let me stop. Let me go wash these dishes. It's kind of like that. Like, he never had the intentions of moving. Like, he didn't want to move the team. He just kind of threatened them because he wanted to, the city to kind of, do what he wanted to do. That whole moving to San Antonio thing, that wasn't happening. Because even though she was there, like, he still was like the final say so. And still, like, Gail Benson was still like the successor to like the team. So it still would have had to go by her. Like, she was just like on the president. She was just the president of the team. She was the one just kind of just running the day to day. But all decisions still would have had to end up being Tom or being Gail. So she just would have been a figurehead. That's why I said I feel like it's necessary that if she would have stayed around, I don't think a lot of these things would happen the way that they do. Because you need somebody, like, honestly, you need somebody like that. You need somebody that have a no-nonsense type attitude, especially when you have a business, when guys probably have, they have like a passive mentality. So you need that one person. You need that one person that can do that. How do you not resign Willie Roaf? Have not a clue. When ticket sales fall, Mrs. Benson will wake up then. Saints need to hire some former players on staff. If they got a good executive mind. I mean, I'm not in a business of just hiring people based on who they are. Like, what can you bring to the table? Like, if we talking about playing football, X's and O's, and you still got some left in the tank, yeah. But we talking about executive decisions, understanding the salary cap, understanding player placements. Like, just because a guy is great in one thing don't mean they're gonna be great in something like that. So if they can do it, then I say hire them, not just based on who they are. Like, I'm not in a business of hiring Drew Brees as offensive coordinator because he was a great quarterback. I don't know how good Drew Brees would be as offensive coordinator. Like, you don't know how these guys are going to be. Just because they were great at one thing don't mean they're going to be great at something else. We really rely on Sean Payton to run the whole franchise now. He gone, and we looking foolish allowing Sean to be the one and all man has crippled us. Now we have to step up without him. Yeah, I mean, it does make you wonder, like, how instrumental this dude was in all the day-to-day operation. Maybe a lot of people was getting paid that shouldn't have got paid, if you get what I'm saying. Anyone tried Joe Horn's barbecue sauce? No, I have not. I have not. I didn't even know Joe Horn had barbecue sauce. So how did they get Gail the chance, to change head coaches with the Pelicans? That's a good question. I have no idea. I have no idea. I don't know how that worked. I don't know how that worked. That's an interesting question. But I'm pretty sure it probably has something to do with the stars of the team, maybe coming to management. and probably saying to them, he probably said, man, we need to do something before we lose these guys. Because I think it's a little different in basketball too, Man, these guys ain't signing 4 and 5 year deals and having 5th-year options, right? At best, these guys, like when you draft them, they're with you probably like 2 years, right? So, man, you got to keep these dudes happy. Like, you got to keep them happy or they're going to go somewhere else. Like, they're going to force themselves out. Like, it's different. Like in football, if you sign like a 5-year deal and you unhappy, like, man, whatever, man, we got you sold up for the next 5 years. Like, what you going to do? Like, what you going to do? Every time you don't show up, you lose money. So it's a little different. So when those guys speak, you better listen or you're going to be met. And then, it's very close knit in the NBA as well. Guys talk to each other all the time, and that can cost you a free agent that can come to your team that can help you win down the line. So when they speak, you better listen or you're going to really be set back for years. What you think of the quarterback that will be drafted out of Tennessee? Hendon Hooker, I think he's a talented quarterback. I think that he has great instincts. I think that he has a good zip on the ball, great accuracy. Sometimes the thing that concerns me is he get a little bit of happy feet when you could put pressure on him. He don't set his feet and he just kind of get a little erratic, but there's nothing I don't feel like he can work on, but all in all, I think he's a solid quarterback. I don't think he'll ever be an elite quarterback, but I think he'll be good, and I think you can win with him. I don't agree with Rob Parker much, but he was right about Payton. I like Rob Parker, man. Like, Rob Parker is entertaining. He's an entertaining guy and really smart too, man. Really smart, intelligent guy. Like, you can tell a part of what he's doing is kind of just for the entertainment purposes. And then you got the other times where I just feel like, he really be being sincere about what he's saying. I tried Joe Horn barbecue sauce. He was selling his barbecue sauce in 2012 at a local Winn-Dixie in Mississippi, and again at Sam's Club. Man, who mama recipe that boy Joe Horn trying to? that man took his mama recipe and now he trying to get paid. Oh man, nah, but I ain't never tried it though. I never tried it. But I'm gonna have to give it a shot if it's still out right now. How about that Wolves Pale game? My team got y'all. Yeah, I ain't been keeping up. Honestly, I ain't been keeping up with the NBA like that. I mean, I've been watching it from time to time. I know, man, the New Orleans Saints injury thing must have kind of, radiated off the Saints to the Pelicans. I don't know I don't know if they got the same doctors or what. I don't know what the heck going on, but in New Orleans, you can't stay healthy. Shoot, you at a 2-month minimum at best when you injured. The Saints 5-year plan will be horrible. I hope not. T-Wolves ain't winning nothing, so you want to cook it for that regular season win. Yeah, man. I mean, the Minnesota Timberwolves, I mean, if it's anything like it was last season when they had 23-point leads, 16-point leads, 17-point leads in the playoff games and still losing, yeah, they're not going anywhere. Let's see. I can't bring myself to stressing about this team due to the poor decisions they made. Until he proves otherwise, I can't get excited for a Dennis Allen-led team. I mean, I think everybody feel the same way. But I will say this. It kind of feels good to go into a season with zero expectations. Like, usually when we watch the New Orleans Saints, the expectations are high. Like, we up here trying to look and trying to see if these boys going to go to that Super Bowl, right? But now it's like, okay, like, we know they ain't going to be good, or, if they don't be good, we not upset. If they are good, then that'll be a pleasant surprise. But nobody just sitting up there like with the same type of enthusiasm and energy like it's been in years past. And honestly, it kind of feels good. Like, from a content standpoint, me doing this podcast, me talking sports, it's good, right? Because throughout the years, when they had Sean Payton and Drew Brees, wasn't too much going on. Like, yeah, we need a cornerback here, we need a running back there. But you kind of knew, okay, we had the right coach and we had the right quarterback. So anything else, we know at least we can win 8 games with that, just off that alone. So we just got to figure out how to win 2 more to get to 10. But now it's like the Saints might win 10 games. They might win 6 games. They might win 4 games. We don't know. But it's exciting, like I said, from a content standpoint. But as a fan, once I take that podcaster / broadcaster hat off, it as a fan, like it's pretty miserable, I just want my team to be good. I just want to be good. That's it. I just want my team to be good. But thank you all so much for checking out the State of the Saints podcast. Really do appreciate it. Much love to everybody here. Ask that you hit the like button on your way out. Thank you to everybody that donated to the State of the Saints podcast. Also, we got some new T-shirts that's available right now. You can get a State of the Saints podcast T-shirt. And also, we got some T-shirts for the Gumbo Pie Sports podcast that are available. I'm excited about it. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's been a while since I, created some new T-shirts. So they are available right now. If you go to facebook.com, search the State of the Saints podcast, there's a link there's available where you can click on there and check out the new T-shirts and new merchandise that we have here for the State of the Saints podcast. So thank you all so much. Also, I want to say to everybody out there that for those that have not subscribed to this channel, right? If you have not subscribed, please hit the subscription button. And you have previous episodes that are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor FM, and follow me on Twitter at TJAY Jones 8. Till next time, all I got to say is